a long time, Judith Akatagba. So everybody just like really listening with us. It's going to be a really great space. And Judith is going to correct me as she always does. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it over. Please bear with us as we have certain technical things that we work through. You guys know that this is Twitter Spaces, and we're doing our best to bring this really good information on a really wide scale to all of you. So if we ever have a co-host drop off or any of our really important special guests, just bear with us and we're going to get the space rolling and keep the information flowing. So I'm going to pass it over to Judith if that's okay. And I'm going to go ahead and try to get Wayne back up here.
Hello, everyone. Good evening and welcome to the shift where we're going to be talking about police brutality. The actual focus is how do we fix it? When we have so much on the news, so much experiences that has been shared by people, so much evidences in the past about police brutality. And on the shift tonight, we're going to talking about how do we fix it? And we have a very, very respectable guest in the person of Aisha Yesufu in our midst. I'm going to take our introduction very quickly, but before I go to that, I'd like to take the ground rules for today's space. And we would advise that everyone stick to the convo, means that stick to the topic, stick to the conversation, don't drift off, don't unmute your mic, please, because you might very likely be speaking while someone else is speaking. And then please, every question and answer shouldn't exceed 2 minutes. So don't feel offended when the co-host reminds you that your time is running out. And then please don't repeat a question that has been asked. Don't change the topic being discussed while asking your question as well. And please stay in a quiet place before requesting the mic. So these are the few ground rules that we have for today. I'm going to go ahead now to give us a brief introduction of our guest. Aisha Yesufu is a Nigerian activist and a businesswoman. She was born on the 12th of December, 1973. In fact, I really cannot wait to hear her tell us how her name is Somto Chukwu, because on her Wikipedia page, she says her name is Aisha Somto Chukwu Yesufu. I'm so eager to hear that. But continuing on her introduction, she co-founded the Bring Back Our Girls movement. We know what the Bring Back Our Girls movement was all about. And then this Bring Back Our Girls movement brought attention to the abduction of over 200 girls from a secondary school in Chibok, Nigeria. And this happened on the 14th of April, 2014. So then she's also been prominently involved in the NSAS movement against police brutality in Nigeria. I'd like to just quickly, whilst we wait for Aisha to get on board, oh yeah, good, she's here now. I want to quickly explain or read out what police brutality is, just for the sake of it. It is the excessive and unwarranted use of force by law enforcement against an individual or a group. It is an extreme form of police misconduct and is a civil rights violation. Police brutality includes, but is not limited to, beatings, shootings, improper takedowns, and unwarranted use of tasers. So that's what a summary of what police brutality is. So, like I said while I was introducing Aisha Yesufu, I said I would like her to tell us how her name is Somto Chukwu. What came about that name? I like the name. So, madam, please, you're welcome to the shift. Members of this interesting conversation, please let's make a welcome to Aisha Yesufu by your emojis, love emojis, clap emojis. Let's welcome Aisha Yesufu as she takes the mic and tell us first of all, how is your name? How did you come about Somto Chukwu? You're welcome, madam.
to drop off again. So I just heard when you said, how did you come about Somtochukwu? So could you rephrase the whole question again, or is that the only question?
Yes, because when I read your introduction on, as it is written on Wikipedia, it says Aisha Yesufu, born 12th December 1973. And then I said that you're a Nigerian activist and a businesswoman, and that you co-founded the Bring Back Our Girls movement, and that you were also prominently involved in the NSAS movement against police brutality in Nigeria. So I said before we will continue the discussion of today that would you be kind to tell us how your name is Somtochukwu? I'll be glad to know.
Okay, thank you so much. I think quite a number of people have asked me that particular question, and there are some who have said, "Oh, are you Igbo?" No, I'm not Igbo. Somtochukwu is a name I chose for myself. It's a name I've always loved. I had a friend, I think that was sometime in 2004 or something like that, who had a child who was named Somtochukwu. And I just love the name. And in my head, I've always carried it in my head as that's my other name. That's part of my name. So what brought it out was when the president had made a statement where he did the tweet that was taken down by Twitter, where he had said that he was going to met out the 1967 treatment on those from the southeastern part of the country. So I did a video and I said, we are all Igbo, that I'm Igbo and my name is Aisha Yesufu. And that I think so they just took it from there. And you know, like Wikipedia, I don't even know who did that whole thing. I'm even glad they corrected my birthday. They used to put 1974 there. I'm like, nah, I was born 1973. Yeah, so that's how the name came about. But my husband's name is Osigwe anyway. A lot of people think it's an Igbo name. It's an Edo name, but it has similarity that we share with Igbo people that looks similar. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much for that. And that shows that you're a very pan-Nigerian person. So before this space is going to end, I'm sure some people will also give you some other names from other tribes. I'll give you one from Urobo. I am from Urobo-speaking part of Nigeria. That aside, so we would like to know what you can tell us how we got to this deplorable state of having police brutality as a menace or as a problem that the government has failed to address for so long, that now led to a point where the youth had to come out and speak against it vehemently in the month of October in 2020. Can you please give us a historical perspective of how did we get to this point where police brutality is still one of the problems that we are grappling with?
Okay, thank you so much. So for how do I put it now? Should I say clarity purpose? One of the things I'm going to say is that I'm not very knowledgeable on this topic, and that's one thing. For me, I usually do not like to dabble in things that I don't have so much knowledge for, and I'm very okay with saying that. Oh, look, on this I don't have as much knowledge as I should. So please, whatever I'm saying here, I'm saying it as a citizen who is concerned about police brutality and not as an expert. Definitely do not have the knowledge to even be having this conversation. But it's something that for me, it's really something that touched me. And so I felt, okay, let me come and say as much as as a mother and also as a citizen, because I have a young adult as children who will go out and they're the kind of people that are being profiled by the police we have today. Let me start from the fact that the way we've always had, we are a colonial nation. We were once under the British, and they colonized us. So one of the things that was done is the fact that there was a policing system that was not there to protect the people, but was merely there to protect the administration. And so over time, when the British were going off, what they simply did was to hand over. And it continued. Even those who took over power continue to do that. And that's what we have up to today. We have a situation whereby the Nigerian police, its allegiance is to the president and the ruling party, and not to Nigerians and to Nigeria and Nigerians. And it's something that has continued over time. And so what we continue to have is people abusing their powers. And these are some of the things that we've had. If I look at, because when we're talking about police brutality in Nigeria, mostly we focus on SARS, right? So let me take us back to, like, for example, the SARS. As a citizen who had lived this, not as an expert in this particular area, there was a time in Nigeria where armed robbery was like what we have with the terrorism we have today, in terms of if you think about the kidnapping, if you think about the banditry, the terrorism, all of them lumped together, what we used to have then was armed robbery. And so it was so serious. You literally were always afraid. People were robbed on the road, buses, especially people who were doing night journeys. When they're traveling, they were being robbed. Houses were robbed. So it was such a huge problem in Nigeria. And even like, for example, even like the herders, people who had cows and all of that, they were actually robbed a lot. And that's when they too even started carrying arms, because you knew they sold their cows and they always had cash, which it was so much easier for the robbers to be able to get at. So along the way, when the anti-robbery squad was formed, and it was almost like, okay, fine, now they're tackling the robbery. And so when they started tackling that robbery and they were actually making progress, there were a lot of, killings. I mean, they would get the armed robbers before you know what's happening. Trust Nigeria, these extrajudicial killings and all of that. People were happy with it. And so this same SARS today, the Special Anti-Robbery Squad that now has turned into the ones who are the armed robbers themselves and the killers.
I'm so sorry, Ma. Okay. Yes. Please, if you can hear me, I accidentally muted your mic by
Oh,
mistake. I was trying to accept one or two speakers and I accidentally muted your mic. So please, if you can hear me, I'm so sorry.
No problem. Where did I stop? Because I wasn't looking down. I was looking up ahead.
Yes. I stopped you at anti-robbery.
Okay, thank you. So the Special Anti-Robbery Squad became like the heroes. I mean, if you knew there was during the Anini time and all of that, robbery was such a huge issue. So when they started operating, and then they were going after the armed robbers, they really were doing that, and they were started killing. They would bring out the dead bodies and all of that. People were interested in saying, "Oh, the people have allowed them to go through the court process. Yes, you're supposed to arrest them and all of that. There might be shooting, stuff like that, but don't be the one. Don't be the judge and the jury and everything and get things done." So there was that enabling environment for them to continue on that. And so it's just like when things start in Nigeria, when the kidnapping, for example, let me digress a little bit, started in Nigeria, a lot of people were happy. They were like, "Oh, it is the expatriates that are being kidnapped and all of that. They are fighting for our rights and stuff like that." Even though there were people that were saying, "No, this is wrong," and everything. But at the end of the day, you know the way it is. When enabling environment is given to people to continue on their criminality, they go overboard. And that's what we've seen today. So from killing, they are only killing armed robbers. Before you know what's happening, they started profiling and getting at people and doing what they're doing today. So that's on one hand. On the other hand, also, remembering the whole kind of hardship and what we've had, even in their training. So if you if you follow the police training system, there's a whole lot of dehumanizing. People are dehumanized. I think there was a video the other time that went viral where I think that was more of military. Somebody's head is shaved, what we normally call gorimapa, and then somebody was using a baton, a hard one, knocking on his head, making him to say something. Why? That's how people are dehumanized. And so when they come out of this whole system, what they do is that they begin to met out that violence that was meted of them on other people. So it's almost like people who have gone through abusive abusive either relationship or abusive situation, when they get into position of power or that same position, most people now begin to continue the abuse. And so that's where we have found ourselves. You even find situation where people are actually going either to the military or to police just to punish other people, to say, oh, somebody has done something to me. If I get to be a policeman or woman, then I'll be able to revenge and give it back to them. And so we've gotten to a place where we've enabled them to continue to do this, and they have taken it out of context. This might not be a sort of like a scholarly sort of like history, but I'm here, like I said earlier on, for anybody who is joining. I'm not here to speak on this thing as an expert. I'm here to speak on this as a concerned citizen of Nigeria who has the potential of being the victim of police brutality. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I want to also mention that we have contributors here on this space that also have discussions to bring forward regarding this important topic. And while I like the angle that Aisha has just spoken to, she said that she's speaking because she's a concerned person, and that when people were saying kidnapping is good, because it wasn't affecting a certain a set of people, but it became a widespread problem. So we should never support crime or criminality because we feel that it's happening to a particular set of people. And I'm going to bring on one of our contributors. I know when Wayimi comes on board, she's going to mention the list of all the other contributors. Baron Chimeka is here to also tell us what he has to say about how did we get to where we are, that police brutality has become a problem to us as a society. Baron Chimeka, you have the floor now.
Thank you, Judy. Thank you, everyone. Uh, this is a very important topic, probably because as a criminal practitioner, I think I know too well. I think I've made an argument that our system needs to be changed. Yes, Aisha Yesufu captured it very well. It was, it's an inherited system from the colonial past. Now, if you read the colonial system, there was what we call a two-tier system where the colonial masters and the citizens were two different factions of people. So the police then was there to protect mostly the colonial masters when it started, because when they are going to meet the Aboriginal people, they need to be protected. So when it can never be a police force. It has to be a service. If you look at the mandate of the police, is to protect the life and the properties of the citizens of the citizens of the country. So it should be a service. Now, if you look at police brutality as somebody who has been practiced, you can now see that because the system is so designed in a way that it protects a class of people, there is no humanness. Now, but let's go first to the determination to fix it. So if we look at the determination to fix it, then we now create what we call a legal instrument. What is a legal instrument? If you look at the UK system, there is a legal instrument that they call the Police and Criminal Evidence Act. So that Police and Criminal Evidence Act created a regulation that they call the Police and Criminal, the Police Code. Now, nothing can happen within the police system that does not abide by that act and the code. Now, something like you will see in the code is like, for example, if the police arrest a citizen, he can't interview that citizen without a lawyer. He cannot interview that citizen without being recorded. He must check if the citizen is okay. He must check if the citizen is sick. And the citizen
Baron Chamako, sir, please, we beg of you, could you be a little bit more audible, just a bit louder, so everyone can hear this very useful information.
Oh, okay. Am I not? Can you guys hear me clearly? I
This
don't.
is better. This is much better.
Okay, so you will hear something like for example, if I go to a police station and my client is there, the first thing I want to know, there is a form that the police must certify that my client is okay in terms of health. And my client can never be seen by a police without the presence of a lawyer. And that is in terms of the administrative aspect of it. Now, if you go further, you will now see that police interaction with citizens are now in this day and age recorded. Now, the overall, what has happened in Nigeria, which is supposed to change, if when police arrest and commit all sort of brutality, they take you to the court. The court will actually, they can convict you even after you've been brutalized. But here, a case against you collapse automatically if there is any sign of police brutality. So if I go about what they can do and what they cannot do, I think we need a change of the entire police system. Their training needs to change. Their continual professional development needs to change. They need to actually be in a service mode, not a force mode. That force mode makes them look at citizens as an enemy as opposed to a citizens as a friend. Now we also have to go to what we call the community policing, intelligence-based policing. All this is what needs to change. Without so, police brutality cannot change. The name, the training, the continuation of professional development, the legal instrument that must put checkmates in place. Without so, police brutality will and must will continue. Let me not say must continue, will continue. The other one is that if you look at the system in the UK, the police cannot arrest somebody, investigate that person, and go and prosecute because police is determined to gain conviction. Then it's all about conviction. So they can manufacture evidence, they can threaten you, do you all sort of things to get information from you to use to tender as evidence in court. But in the UK, it's a completely different system. So if the police arrest you, you must abide by all these codes, gather all the evidence, do the investigation, and pass it to an independent bar to advise them. Pass it to the prosecution, then the prosecution to independent bar to advise them if you have a case or not.
Mr. Baron,
Yes,
Mr.
please.
Baron, I'm so sorry to interrupt, please, but I would need you to round up in less than
No,
60 seconds,
I've
please.
already finished.
All right, thank you.
I think I've given the overall. Yeah. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, sir. Thank you so much for that submission. Good evening, everyone. My name is Waimi. I just had to reintroduce myself again. So, we've heard what Aisha Yesufu said. Just she gave us like a brief backstory of this whole mess. I mean, I don't want to sugarcoat words. This thing is a mess, right? There's no point sugarcoating it. And Baron just gave us a bigger perspective of what's going on. So we have a couple of speakers that will also be speaking in regards to police brutality, right? And we have them in the names of Mohammed Yaya, we have Priscilla, we have Aikoto, we have Ochilla, we have Casey, and we also have but yeah, okay, that's pretty much it. So most of our speakers are not here yet. You know how Twitter can be, the glitches and all of that. But we will make do with the speakers that we have in the speaker section just to keep the conversation going because this is an interactive session. This is not a monologue session, right? This is a case that has affected one of us here. It could be anybody here, right? And this is a topic that is very, very like it's sensitive for me, and sometimes I try to just kind of stay away from it because it does a lot to me mentally, but it needs to be said, right? So I will give the mic to Mohammed Yaya. Mohammed, if you can hear me, please unmute your mic. Thank you.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Aisha Yesufu. I've been looking forward to see when I will have you on any platform just to have a discussion of this nature with you. Welcome, Obedient TV, and every other person on this platform. I am Mohammed Yahya from the northern part of Nigeria, Kaduna to
Hearing
be precise.
anything?
Riga, Rigasa community to be precise. You are welcome, ma. Just to welcome you. Have been impressed with your
I don't
ways
know,
and actions.
Mohammed. I don't know if you can hear me, but Mohammed, if you can hear me, please. We are losing you. Your line is seriously breaking. So please, if you can, you fix that, please.
Can you hear me now,
Yes, I
please?
can
Can
hear
you
you. I
hear
can
me?
hear you now.
All right. Thank you. I say good evening, everyone. Good evening, Aisha Yesufu. I've been looking forward to see how we can meet on any platform and have a discussion of this nature. Actually, I'm from the northern part of Nigeria, Kaduna, and Rigasa to be precise, along train station. When you talk about police brutality, I could remember when the NSAS protest took place, 10th October, when it got worst. Some people that are living in the north perceive it as if it's just a kind of, movement that has to do with overthrowing the administration of one particular person or the other, which is never true. Police brutality is everywhere, even in the northern part of Nigeria. So, and I think the best way of fixing this, as far as I'm concerned, everything that begins must have a kind of certain root. When you fix the root, then the plant will be all right. I'm very sorry, but I can say it started from, the leadership. When the leadership is right, when you have leaders that are for the people, they are going to fix, and even the appointment of police officers will be, will not be in form of corruption, in form of corrupt system. Majority of how police brutality began is police are only in the lives and properties of the elites, but not the followers. And I have two ways. There is what we call Police Anti-Torture Act. It has never been implemented as far as I'm concerned. And the best way to fix this is first, back down to the citizens or the masses. In terms of bringing up the leaders, you must look at the leaders that have you at heart. That is my own take. Bring those leaders that have you at heart, that will fight for your rights and your freedom. That's one. Number two, I will advise the government, because it's not late yet. You need to make one of the police officer or any police that is being caught maltreating citizens should be brought to book. Make him a scapegoat. Jail him. In Police Anti-Torture Act, there is provision for jailing a police officer if you found, you know, if he is found torturing a citizen without any reason, for 25 years imprisonment. I know that. Then thirdly, you can even fire them out of their duties, take them out, remove their uniform and send them away. Because if there are no people, who are you going to protect? If their lives are not there, who are you going to protect? Here in the northern part of Nigeria, you can imagine. No, there is one thing I don't know if people in Nigeria have been that observant, have been observing such. Do you know it is only in Nigeria that police will hide and wait for you to commit an offense so that he'll come and catch you and prosecute you? Which is different in other countries, I know. Police will be pleading with you not to commit an offense, not to commit a crime. But in Nigeria, it's just something different. So my take here is government must work alongside with people. We know anytime police stop a citizen, more especially the masses, the less privileged ones, the first thing they do is to intimidate them using their uniforms, using their, their guns and whatsoever they are using to just create fear in you, to even deprive you speaking the right thing. It has ever occurred to me. I was riding motorcycle. Then it was my turn to move along the traffic light. And when their convoy is coming, they don't respect that. They are the one that's supposed to respect the law so that people will also abide by it, but they don't do so. They almost crushed me. The police that was giving us chance to pass now came and arrest me. After seeing that, I was not even the one that, violated the rule. But he was trying to arrest me, that why wouldn't I allow them to pass first before I pass? And you are the one that asked me to pass. They are the one that will make the law, but they will not respect the law. And if the like of me and every other person break the law, then they will be prosecuted, even intimidated. They will beat you, and you are being deprived the right to come and even voice out your problem. They will begin to spray tear gas everywhere. It's uncalled for. And the best thing is for us to go back. There are provisions of law. There are several provisions that even deprive police from exercising excess power on citizens. Every given mistake or every given crime have its own consequences in Nigerian constitution. So I think some people are trying to siphon, or they are trying to, cover such kind of, consequences just to favor them. So the best way is we shouldn't relent. Electing leaders is one of the tools that will mitigate this problem, as far as I'm concerned. So let me yield the mic for the moment. When condition arise, I think I will speak. Well done, Ma.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Mohammed Yaya. Ma, Aisha, the mic is yours. Can anyone hear me? I don't know if my
Yeah, I can
network
hear
is
you.
good.
I can hear you.
Right.
Just
Okay.
waiting for you to conclude. Okay, so you want me to just go ahead? Okay then. Thank you so much, Mohammed, for that. I think you really put it into context. So I think for me, I would like to take us back. Yeah, I don't know the situation now, but I can show you the situation when I was much younger was that the only people that were sent to police were actually people in your families who sort of like, not the only people, let me not use that word. Most of the people that were sent in were actually people in your families who either weren't doing well academically or who had some criminal tendencies. So it was a very quick thing to see. Oh, okay, this person is not. This child is such a criminal. He's doing anyhow. Put him in the police or put him in the military. That's one of the things we did. And so when you had those kind of people in the police, what were we expecting? What were we expecting to have? In other countries, before you get, that's why a policeman or woman is held in such honor. Because before you get there, you must be somebody who is upstanding in the society. You must be somebody with integrity. You must be somebody with character. Because you're the ones who are dealing with directly with people. And I love what the other speaker spoke about when he said the force itself in police is actually an issue. It's a problem because they see as if, oh, they're there to lord it over everybody instead of serving the community and protecting the community. So that's one. Who are the kind of people that were even sent into the police in the first place? You find when I will give a short example. My brother wanted to join the police some years ago. I mean, the whole family were laughing at him. I was the one rooting for, like, go for it if you want to. At the end of the day, he chickened out. He couldn't continue. So this is what we've had. And I'm sure it doesn't only happen it didn't only happen in my family. There are other families where you find out people want to go into police and they're told no, who wants to be there and stuff like that. So that also it's a major problem. The other thing also is to look at on this issue of brutality. Yes, we look at people being brutalized, but we have to also look at people have been conditioned to accept brutality being meted on them. So right from our houses, you're beaten for something, whether you did it or you did not do it. As a child, you were beaten. Uncles and whatever were called upon you to come and beat you. If your parents, if maybe you're a teenager, your parents couldn't flog you the way they could beat you before when you were like a toddler. They will call in your uncles or your brothers or stuff like that. They will actually hold you down. They will flog you and stuff like that. Well, that's almost the same thing what the police have continued and have built upon it. So, and then when you speak up, you are told that, oh, you can't speak up, you can't do anything. And so we have people who have, like I always say, the first set of dictators we actually have were actually in our houses. They were actually parents. And I'm a parent, so I also take responsibility for that. So And at the end of the day, people grew up into the society and they didn't know what to do or how to fight back. And it sort of like continued. And these are some of the things that have to be stopped. And what we have also, most importantly, is the impunity. And like what Mohammed rightly said, yes, that there is an act. I think that act was passed in 2017, the anti-torture torture act. And as of the last time, Amnesty International did it, and I don't think anybody has been prosecuted based on that. So what they call it, the Anti-Torture Act, it was passed into law in 2017 by the 8th Assembly, and it imposes a penalty of up to 25 years imprisonment for perpetrators. So it's not as if we don't have laws and all of that, but the biggest problem we have, it's when it comes to implementation, they are never implemented. And one of the things that we have with our police system is that they cover up for themselves. They are there, they have each other's back. And that's the reason why a policeman will say to you, I will kill you and nothing will happen. And on the 20th of October 2020, that was reinforced because the citizens who came out to say, stop killing us, what happened? They were gunned down, they were killed. You will see a policeman will say to you, the worst thing that will happen, even if they come, they will transfer me to another police station. And so there is that protecting of themselves that is going on. Let me add that a lot of times people talk about the fact that police are not being paid well, police don't get enough, their welfare and all of that. There's nobody in Nigeria who is paid well. We all have, so that's not an excuse for them to continue to do what they're doing. That's not an excuse for them to continue to brutalize the people. What has allowed them to continue this brutalization is the enabling environment that they've had to continue to do it, because people aren't paying the price. And when you continue to reward bad behavior, what will happen is that people will continue to do it more and more and more again. And like Mohammed said, if there was prosecution, if the people who have been doing this, they've been brought, they face the wrath of the law, it will send message and signal to many other persons that they shouldn't do it. But what do we have? We have a situation whereby the police, they are working hand in hand with those who are in position of power. And so they protect them, they protect them, and then they too protect the police. So even if anything comes out, they make sure that they shield them and they don't allow them face the wrath of the law. And then also the police, what they do is that at every instant, they shield those people who are in power. Instead of them protecting and being of service to the community, they are just there to protect a few of those Nigerians who either have access to power or have access to wealth or have a certain kind of upstanding, not upstanding, rather a standing in the society. And so these are the things that we must ensure that we're breaking. And I love the way Mohammed put it. He said, all of these things have to do with governance. And that's the thing. There is a relationship between governance and our lives. Most people, we don't pay attention to that. We think that, whoever you put in as governor or as House of Rep member or as senator or as state houses of assembly member, it doesn't matter, or I don't care. But it does matter. If you want the police to be fixed, it has to be done in such a way that the law has to come in. For example, state policing. A president cannot give you state policing, no matter what anyone says. A president can't give you state policing. A governor can't give you state policing. It's the members of the legislative arm of government that can give us a state policing. And when they pass the law for state policing to happen, for example, in Nigeria, I know there are a lot of people who have said, government will now have power and all of that. That's beside the point. That's something else that can be mitigated upon and dealt with when it comes. If, for example, the legislative arm of government passed the law that state policing it becomes law, it should be done. Then the executive, which is when it comes to passing assenting to it, refuse to, they can veto it. They have a power to use their two-thirds to override the president. to override the executive arm and be able to pass it on. So we must also be interested in who are the people who go into our state houses of assembly, who are the people who go into our National Assembly, because at the end of the day, these are the people who are going to make laws, they have oversight functions, and they hold the executive accountable. So it's very important that right now, all the things that we're looking for, we must ensure that we're putting in the right people who will go in there and give that good governance that we ensure that we have all of this. Thank you.
Oh, wow. You brought in so many angles to this particular area that you spoke to. But before I go on to different aspects of what you talked about, some part of what you said hit me hard. You said that people have normalized brutality because this is most case what they have experienced at home. So I would like you to, because I know you're very passionate. I'm talking to Aisha now. You're very passionate about the role of the citizen in Nigeria. And that's one topic that you have always spoken about. So I want to ask you, what should a citizen do in the case of brutality by the police?
Yeah. What should a citizen do in the case of brutality? The first thing that citizens should do is to see any police brutality on anyone as brutality on themselves. Part of the problem that we have is a problem of selfishness and the I don't care attitude. So most times people wait until something happens to them before they take notice of it. And I'll say you something. I see a lot of people that come, even like on Twitter, and the first thing they say, oh, I never thought this would happen to me. I've just been brutalized by police, and blah, 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 blah. And when I see tweets like that, honestly, most times I just walk past, even if I wanted to engage, because I know if I engage, I'm going to be so insensitive that they will like, somebody is telling you that they've gone through so much. Because why are you thinking you never thought you would do it? Did you think you were a different person from a different planet? Did you think you were so special? Did you think that, oh, you were different, that this wouldn't happen to you? Something that you're hearing every day that is happening to other people. So that's the first thing. So the moment we begin to, we do not wait until it gets to our doorstep before we actually begin to take, before we begin to do something on it, then we will all be collectively outraged when something happens to another person. And in that way, it will now show the perpetrators that if they touch one of us, they touch all of us, and we are not going to agree. So that's one. So the first thing I would say, don't wait until it happens to you to be outraged. Be outraged, irrespective of whether you've ever seen anyone who is a victim or anything. The moment it happens, be out there. The second thing also, it's what the citizens have collectively been using. Social media is such a great tool. It was Chude Jidonwo that I first heard from him that said social media has democratized media. And so it has given people the opportunity to be able to put things out there. And so one of the things, for example, when you're talking about policy, in every policy making, the first step of policy making is actually agenda setting. So you just set an agenda and you have opportunity to be able to come together and be able to use social media to set that agenda. That's where, for example, the NSAS itself, I know a lot of Nigerians have, sort of turned, when they say agenda, oh, he has an agenda, it's turned to be like a bad thing. Yes, there's an agenda to everything, because it's from the agenda setting that you make a topic to be what should be spoken about, or to the extent that you now have policy formulation and all of that, and the process are going on. So as citizens, what are the issues? Talk about them. Don't keep quiet. You as one person, you might feel overwhelmed and think that your voice don't matter, but your voice do matter. And the moment you begin to speak on a particular topic, whether people are hearing or they're not hearing you, keep talking about it, others will join you. And there are some people who say, oh, they make social media noises. Yes, it's okay to make noises. There are some who make noise, and then there are some who will take that noise and begin to act on it and begin to ensure that there are policies, that are going on. So that's one. Care, it's very important. Speak about it and ensure that you're adding your voice to it, no matter how small, in whatever category that you can add that your voice to it. The other thing also, is to ensure that at every platform that you have, that you are able to do something about that police brutality, to be able to call the government's attention to it, use it, which is also like amplified the whole issue. It's also important to let people understand their rights. Stephen Biko said something, and I love using this quote every day because it's so important and it's so where we are in Nigeria today. They say that Stephen Biko said that the greatest weapon of the oppressor, yeah, is the mind of the oppressed. So the moment you're able to have a hold of the mind of a person, you have control of the person. Like I said earlier, a lot of people, are you okay? A lot of people do not understand that torture, it's a right that you have that can never be taken away. It's an absolute right. Torture, I think a few of that, I think they're like 2 or so, that it's an absolute right. No matter what you do, even if you had killed 1 million people, according to the laws that we have, and also the laws, the international laws that Nigerians have signed to, and the anti-torture law that we have, you can't torture someone. It's an absolute right, no matter how heinous the person has been. But many people do not even understand that. So there's a need for also to do that awareness creation, to educate the people and let people understand their right. Because it is when you understand your right that you are able to fight back. But when you feel that, oh, torture is normal because you've been tortured all your life, even your parents, I mean, they tortured you, your siblings, your whatever, your teachers and all of that, you take it as normal, then you continue with it. So there's also that place of educating. What is it? One person you can educate somewhere, go ahead and educate that person. Let me give you an example that normally happens, we have in Nigeria, and that's the reason for the police. We have a situation in police where the moment, it's almost as if police are just waiting. The moment they commit a crime is committed, they don't do investigation. The first thing they do is to just arrest people. They arrest people, they take them in, and then they torture people. So out of when you're being tortured, of course, you want the torture to stop. You will confess to anything that you've not done. And then when they get to court, what happens? The person will just simply say those things were extracted out of them under duress. They took it, they were torturing them, and then the whole case, goes away. And that's what we have. Even where there are real crimes, because they do not do this investigation, our police, they are not being, in terms of investigation, they are not being trained the way they adequately should be trained. And we're ending up, even cases that should ordinarily be won by the police, they end up losing it. And we end up blaming the judges. Oh, Nigerian judges are these, they are corrupt. But they can't do anything. It's not about whether somebody has committed a crime or not. It's about what is the evidence that has been brought in front there. So that's another part anyway. But the main thing is for citizens to understand their rights, to educate other people also on their right to speak up, and not wait until they are victims before they actually do something about it. If every one of us we are not waiting until we become victims, or we know people who have become victims before acting on it, and I think we'll be able to do a whole lot more. And also, please, let's realize that the people who are in office are actually there to serve us, and where they're not doing the work, there must be punishment for bad behavior. For example, right now, and I'm going to mention Lagos State. Lagos State governor have, on this issue of police brutality, he has behaved badly. He hasn't done this. He hasn't acted as a leader should act. And guess what? There's an election in a few months. And if the people of Lagos go ahead and do not punish his bad behavior by voting him out, guess what? He's going to come, and the next 4 years, he's going to do worse. Imagine there was an NSAS, NSAS commemoration on the 20th of October, just to commemorate the brutal attack that happened at Lekki Toll Gate. And citizens, police that have been watching other people, even when thugs are fighting, they will stand by the side and do nothing. The same police went out there and tear gassed citizens under the watch of a governor who had called soldiers to come on his people on the 20th of October 2020 that ended up killing. And in a few months, this is the time, in every time, the only time that citizens really have power, especially over the executive, it is when it is election time. And if they sit down and do nothing, and watch that man again being re-elected, and they think that police will not meant to have brutality on them. Of course they will do, because simply by ensuring that he gets into office, you're simply saying that, oh, keep doing what you're doing. And the 4 months to election, where he knows that you are the bosses, he needs you, he's still sending police to tear gas you, he's still watching that. Though they will tell you they don't have control over police when it comes to fighting crime, but when it comes to innocent protesters, they have that control over police, and the military, they have a way of calling them in. 4 months. So expect after the election, you don't vote him out, you allow him to come back when he knows he has 4 years where he doesn't need anything again from you. What is he going to do? So the most important thing that citizens can do is to continue to vote at those who have not ensured that they put an end to police brutality. If citizens are being brutalized, take it out at the polls. You have the total control. The 4 aces are yours on the election day. And if you don't use it, well, they will continue to do what they do, because you're giving them enabling environment for them to continue to behave badly. Thank you.
Okay, am I the only one that was left in a state of awe? Because this is deep. This is very, very deep. But before we go back to Aisha, and I know a lot of us want to ask her a lot of questions, I'm just going to take a couple of speakers so we can make this as interactive as possible. I know some of us want to bombard her with questions and all of that, but please hold on. You'll get your time. But let me give the mic to one of our speakers, Priscilla. Good evening, Priscilla. How are you?
Hi, Wayne. Good day. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Am I loud and clear?
You're very loud and clear.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Thank you so much to the Obedience TV for giving the opportunity to talk about this thing. We can never talk about it enough, because the amount of injustice that Nigerians have had to go through under not just the NSAS, but just police brutality in total is very worrisome. And I feel like as a country, the whole country should go on that therapy for enduring the Nigerian police and its brutality and all the other versions of Nigerian police, and sometimes even the military as a country, because it's enough. Aisha Yesufu, thank you so much. There are various angles you've come from that just makes me like, wow, they should take this literally out of my brain. And one of them is basically the accountability part, but she covered it totally. So I'm going to go to another part. And that there's this singing, love her music. But she's a human being. She would not be able to appeal to everyone. But there's this particular music she sang that the first day I heard it, I was so unhappy and upset, because it took me down memory lane. And that's this music, Mind Your Business. Some years ago, while I was in university, we got a call, I'm and my dad, that an uncle of mine was missing. So my mom and her sister, they went all around Lagos, went to Nigerian police, and Nigerian police refused to move until they were activated. Of course, everybody knows what activation is. So for every day that they were going to leave the police station to do their job, they were activated, notwithstanding or not minding the emotional state of my mom and her sister, who were looking for their only brother. Actually, my uncle was the only son. The third day of activation, guess who still found him? When the police was busy just driving their van and minding their business, my mom was the one that was able to find him. Along the way, she saw his favorite shirt, and oh my days, he's been laying down there helpless and dead for the past few days. He was shot by armed robbers that work around Mount City. You know that Mount City and Oba Road is very dangerous road. At some point, he was shot down. He was shot dead and robbed. It was a very tragic incident. Fast forward to some years in Kano. I and my friend were just walking, and guess what? A certain unmarked van just passed in front of some ladies that were looking very cute. I call them cute because I'm from Lagos. I stay in Lagos, and I stayed in Port Harcourt for some time, so I really don't see anything wrong with the lady wearing a cute short skirt. So two of them were really looking cute, and then this van just passed right in front of them, and we're just dragging them, and the ladies were like struggling. Okay, I and my friend were just walking, and normally I do not mind my business because I still have the trauma of what happened to my uncle. So we went. Oh my God, We went there and they were like, what's going on, sir? Like the ladies were like, I don't know them, or like, and the guys were like, mind your business. They used that particular phrase, mind your business. And I was like, nope, I'm not leaving here today. And Oga, we are going to make a very, and they were just two men, with the driver. And when we kept struggling, and the whole fiasco attracted a lot of people. And immediately they noticed that we are dragging crowds. Boom, they zoomed up. Now, here's what's very annoying about that scenario. We couldn't identify where they were coming from. No marking, nothing, just an empty van with no marking. So there's the enabling ground for brutality to happen because, A, these people know the law. These people are supposed to enforce some parts of this law. So they use the knowledge that they have to be able to intimidate Nigerians who have been conditioned to mind their business. So it just keeps going. It's like a very vicious cycle. You have your neighbor is being picked up unlawfully by the police. Well, if your door was open before, you close it and you bolt it, and then you say it's not my business. Somebody is being picked up by a van with a man dressed in police uniform. You don't even know if it's a kidnapper that has acquired police uniform. We know what happens in this country. And then we mind our business. And then until they come and pick your brother, then you will not come to a memorial and tell the story of how your brother or your personal family was affected. Now let's go to personal family. I have 3 brothers. Okay? One is not in the country, 2 are. The older one is a customer, he's a tech bro, he drives a BM, and he wears shorts, and he has afro. I'm sure I'm describing their profile.
Service culture evangelist. May I ask that you jump onto how you think we can fix the problem? I like the story, I'm enjoying it, but I also want us to stay on course. So can you use the next 60 seconds to give us that aspect of the information?
Yeah, I'm getting there. That's why I started with Mind Your Business. Thank you so much, Judith, for that. I feel like as individuals, you have to be willing to fight back. I know there's this thing, they will shoot you and all that, but here's the thing. Some people do not fight back. They follow them willingly to the police station. The police take whatever they want, and they still take them to the back of the police station and shoot them dead. And if you do find someone who is in harm's way, irrespective, even if the person is a victim of something, just try as much as possible to not just mind your business and walk past, because that might be the last day you might see that person. We have a lot of cases of people who just mind their business. And there's a reason I was saying my brother's name, because he was saved from an individual who didn't mind his business. So I'm saying right here, right now, and I'm very glad Aisha Yesufu is talking about these things, and I would love us to talk about these things. I have an uncle who died from somebody minding his business, and I have a brother who was saved from someone who didn't mind his business. And right now, we Nigerians, we are exposed to a lot of things. A lot of things are working against us. We have to come together as a people. I know there are bad people out there, but what are the odds that this person that you're leaving in the hands of this cop is actually a bad person? Find out. Give that person an opportunity to be saved. And even if that person does something bad, ensure that you get the details of the police involved so that there's a follow-up, because there's a lot of extrajudicial killings going on. And that's because nobody knows where these people are. Nobody knows how to find these people. And it keeps going on and on and on. So please, that's my own view about the situation. And
thank you very much. Thank you very much for establishing this very important topic and sharing some of your experiences. I want to move right on to Casey. Casey must have something to tell us about how we are going to fix police brutality. You have the floor now.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Judy. Thank you, Chuka. Thank you, Aisha. Thank you, everyone who has spoken. I really appreciate everyone's contribution. I have been listening in the background. I just wasn't able to speak, but thankfully I have some free time now. So I want to chime in and just say a few things regarding the topic. Personally, I've been a victim of police brutality. When I was in Nigeria in 2019, I came back for my wedding. In a few days, I think 3 or 4 days to my wedding, we're just driving to pick up a few things, myself and the driver, and we got picked up by SARS. for absolutely nothing. Didn't break any traffic rules, wasn't speeding, nothing. They just overtook us, stopped the car, jumped into the car. We tried to, stop them. For some reason, we just couldn't. A lot of people just stood there watching. They got in our car. They got in their car as well, and they took us to the station. And what my eyes saw, some of it I couldn't speak. I saw youths, people just like me. Some of them naked, some of them just wearing shirts, just sitting there. I even saw a youth copper wearing the NYC uniform, just sitting there. I was looking, just so confused. They try to get my phone and force me to open my phone. And what I see them do right in front of me was take conversation with some of my colleagues, my friends, um, and print out these conversations, trying to amend it and add certain things, and just labeled me a Yahoo person. Even though I showed them my ID card, who I worked for, what I did for a living, and all of that, it didn't matter. And I understood the tactics. It was easy. It was just, how can we intimidate this person? So if we can intimidate them, we can break them. So that way, they can find us whatever we ask for, give us whatever we ask for, and go their separate way. So the tactics was clear. So I'm thankful that it didn't affect my wedding. It took a few calls for me to get out of that experience without having to pay any money. But my story is different. There are a lot of people who didn't live to tell the story. There's a lot of people who are still even locked up today. So this conversation is very, very important, and I think it's very necessary, especially at a time like now, where we're actively trying to decide who's going to be the next president of our beloved country. I've looked at people's policies from this perspective. Atiku initially released his manifesto, 74-page document. Reddit wasn't impressed, nothing to write home about, sincerely speaking. Recently, Tinubu released his. I took some time and went through the 80-page document. I must say I really focused on the economic side, but when it came to security, I think security, the word itself was mentioned around 24 times, but nothing precisely about police brutality. Nothing precisely. If you were to drill down a bit further, I think somewhere around page 10 was where he talked about responding, or maybe repositioning the police in a way. So he talked about the normal thing they always talk about: recruit, train, equip, blah, 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 but nothing precise, no detail about how you're going to tackle police brutality. There were details about how he was going to tackle insecurity for sure, but nothing about police brutality and holding the police accountable. So I've listened to a lot of speakers, and I agree with a lot of people. Aisha was very clear in some of her comments about how we can address the issue, and I think a lot of it, basically is what I'm going to talk about too. I believe, one, there has to be great awareness, and awareness in the sense that we're able to know the laws and what we essentially need to do to hold police accountable where there's a case of police brutality. I think in recent times, there has been some sort of awareness by the police themselves, slightly. So what I mean by that is they've, increased the public communications. I think that's very vital. That's very important, because it's a way that it really creates easy access for citizens, especially in a very, very social setting, in a social forum, just like Twitter. So someone like Ben or some of the people who've been very active, just speaking out, not really about the case in specific, but just speaking out and saying, look, we've heard and we've seen this incident, something is happening. But then we need that follow up to see, okay, what eventually happened? Like, what's the situation? Give us the update on this case. What's the feedback? You get what I'm saying? So that, I think, it's one area that they really need to improve on. We need that public relations to be able to communicate effectively with the people. It's better to do it that way, to be honest. And then also, I think someone talked about publication of prosecuted officers. I think that's very key. Um, when police officers or even the EFCC, for example, when they catch criminals or they catch Yahoo,
Hi, Casey. I'm so
yeah.
sorry to cut you. I'm really sorry, but please, can you round this up in 60 seconds or less? Thank you.
Oh, okay, okay, absolutely, absolutely. So I think one other way that we can also address this, broadly speaking, is when we talk about federalism and essentially decentralization of power. giving states the autonomy to be able to handle their policing. I think that's very key because you can essentially hold governors account who in that sense can hold corrupt police officers within the unit account. There are other ways, but in the essence of time, I'm just going to have another speaker speak, and then maybe I can jump in to talk about a few other things. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Casey. Thank you for your submission. Okay. So I'm going to, okay. So I want to ask Aisha a question that has been popping up in the DM. Like I said, this is an interactive session, and I know some people would prefer, dropping their questions in the DM or comment section. So, Aisha, can you hear me, please? Because this is a question for you.
Yes, I can. I can.
Okay, so the question is this. So let me read the question out. So the question says,
Okay,
you
now I
recently,
can't.
can you hear me now? Okay, can anyone else hear me?
I can hear you.
I can hear you. I can hear you well.
Okay, cool. So Aisha, can you hear me now? Oh wow, I don't think Aisha can hear me. But everyone else can hear me, right?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
Hello,
All
Miss
right.
Aisha, can you hear us? Might be a network issue.
Right.
Okay, we
Okay.
might have her dropped and then brought back on.
Yeah,
Continue,
okay. So
Amy.
while Aisha is sorting out her network, I'm just going to take another speaker. Then when she's back, we will continue. Is that fine by everyone? If that's fine by you, just flash an emoji. Okay, cool. Okay, I'm going to take Big Frank underscore 123. Big Frank.
Hi, Wayemi. Thank you very much, Judith and Aisha, every other person that has spoken. Thank you. Very important topic. I decided to jump in because everybody has made a very good point concerning police brutality. I mean, the topic we're having today is something that has affected, if it has not affected you, then it's coming to you. So it's just a matter of time. So it is just police using excessive force. This is what brutality is all about, excessive force, which is what is not expected from the police, only if you're actually resisting arrest, when there's an arrest warrant to take you. So it's not as though police using force is out of what is expected. It is, when is it being used? So we have to look at the underlying factors. We have two key factors here: individual level factors and organizational level factors. These are the underlying factors that has to do, because if you don't understand the underlying factors, you will not be able to find the solutions to this problem. So don't forget, psychologically, we, the citizens, we see police as our enemy. And the police, they see us, okay, as people they can intimidate because of what, the society, has actually presented to, the both sides of the party. So if you look at it from this angle, you get to see people are very quick to want to pull, to want to resist arrest, because they understand that the police on its own does not have a proper structure. Things are not done properly. So they also want to not want to give in to a system that they know that they won't get anything out of. So we are at conflict with ourselves. So it's not as, if you look at in America, there are statistics data available. There's just 2% of encounters with police is where the citizens they experience police brutality. The data and the figures are actually there in the US. The same thing is applicable in the UK here. There are cases of excessive force, but the percentage is quite very low, which is what we want to bring to the minimum in Nigeria. So where police is allowed to use that excessive force is when, they have a right to arrest you, or you're resisting arrest. Then that excessive force can come into play, which plays out to be police brutality in his own. So we need to actually find a balance while we're discussing about this thing. So like I mentioned earlier on, the individual level factor and organizational level factor, we need to look at from the organizational bit of it. We need to look at leadership. Peter Obi now is is actually trying to come into the system to serve us as a president. So what this is going to do for us is that it's going to change the body language from the top, because Peter Obi is someone that is going to call the IG of police to order and say, look, you have to implement, you have to put things in place, or else you'll be fired. So you can have a situation where we can have 7 IG of police just between Peter Obi's 4-year tenure, because he must get it right. So leadership begins from the top. It does not start from the bottom. It begins from the top, because when the body language of the presidency tells the IG of the police that, look, this man is not going to tolerate any level of police brutality to the citizen, it's going to rub off to institutions we have in our nation. And things will begin to readjust. We are not expecting police brutality to go off overnight. It's going to take up to like 2 decades for police brutality to begin, because we need reorientation. Full reorientation needs to take place, and it is not going to happen overnight. But the numbers are going to drop drastically if we get leadership right. Now, on the issue of individual level factor, most of these policemen, like Aisha mentioned before, people that go into police are people that we consider useless, people that have failed in any given career. So they end up in the police force. There is PTSD. Some of these people, they have mental issues. See, there's mental issue going on. Most of these police people, they have mental issues. So this is why they resort to using excessive force, because there is no proper way to communicate. They don't have the proper training to hold a proper engagement and be able to engage people properly. So they resort to excessive force. So if you look at it, there's a whole problem with the system. But one thing we need to get right first is let's get leadership. 2023, everybody has a call to duty. Let's get leadership right. If we get leadership right, we are going to reduce police brutality to the barest minimum, while we expect it to reduce drastically in the years ahead. But we're going to shrink this thing to a very reasonable number, because we will have a leader that has the interest of the people at heart. So he will be able to hold the IG of police accountable to say, look, why are you not implementing the laws and policies that is guiding what the police force, such that this brutality is going to be reduced to the barest minimum? Look at what the EFCC is doing to people, spoiling businesses. Yes, you want to catch Yahoo boys. Why not catch the Yahoo boys? Get the search warrant, arrest warrant, get them arrested, track them properly, get them arrested. Don't budge into people's house at the middle of the night like a criminal. You can track these people and get them arrested properly, do things nicely like reasonable people. So they are also putting it into the EFCC. Tomorrow, nobody is going to take the EFCC very serious. Even when they're trying to embark on their lawful activities, people will say, oh, they are witch hunting. No, this is how it happens, and the whole system becomes messed up. So individual level factor, organizational level factor, but let's fix the organizational level factor, which is where we get leadership right. Then leadership is going to actually work on the individual level factors. And then we'll have to restructure the entire police system and get people who put incentives in place that will encourage young people, with bright minds to come into the police system. And the final thing again is that we need accountability in the police force. You see how police, in the UK, one of the things that makes the police hold back a lot, that they don't use excessive force, is that the moment they engage with you, their camera picks up immediately that they're talking with you. They are being heard from the back end of their office. These things are being recorded. So you cannot just come out and a citizen didn't do anything to you, and the next minute you want to use excessive force. So how are you going to justify that? Because the law is checkmating you. Nobody needs to come, and the law is going to checkmate you, and you're going to go to prison for that singular act. So these are the things that is surrounding this thing. But if organizational level factor is not fixed, we're not going to be able to fix individual level factors. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
All right. Thank you very much,
Hello,
Frank.
I'm back.
Okay, yes, okay. Actually, we're coming to you soon. Okay, Frank, thank you very much for that submission. I will come back to you because you mentioned something that is quite interesting. But let me go back to Aisha quickly. Right. Before you went off, someone has a question for you. As I was saying, if you have questions to ask, the DM is wide open, so you can drop them there and I will definitely deliver your questions. So the question goes as so. Aisha recently made comments surrounding the LP presidential aspirant, Mr. Peter Obi, towards police brutality. What do you expect the next, that is Aisha now, what do you expect the next presidential candidate to do to combat police brutality? Did you get the question?
Presidential candidate or president? We have a lot of presidential candidates. What do I say? The next president?
Aspirant. I guess the person meant to say presidential aspirant.
No, I think the person meant to say president, the next president. Okay, let's not bother about technicality. No, yeah, I got the question. Okay. Thank you so much. So, and you know why the last speaker was speaking, I was just thinking there was something that came to my head. I'm like, oh yeah, one of the things I remember the question I was asked: what can citizens do? And one of the things is that citizens must understand that they are the bosses. They are the employers, not the employees. They are not the ones that are supposed to be serving the people who are in office to serve them. The question on police brutality was raised by Rinu Odwala, and this is someone who over the last 2 years have really been working with people over the issue of police brutality. People are ready to send her requests 1 million times. When there's police brutality, we all tag her. I tag her. I've said that a lot of places. We've met at a workshop where I say, look, when I see police issue, brutality issue, I just hands up and hand it over to Rinu because I knew she would do a better job. Yet the citizens that are not, that think nothing of tagging Rinu 1,000 times when there's police brutality issue, all of a sudden came on her that how dare she ask a candidate who is looking for a job from her that what is he doing on police brutality because he has spoken on it before. And I said, if Mr. Peter Obi is asked 1 million times on what he's going to do about police brutality, then he has to answer 1 million times because he's looking for a job from the people. The one thing that Nigerians have done over time is to look at themselves as if they're nothing. They look at people who are coming to lead them as if they are the ones who have everything. We need to stop that. If we can go to a citizen and hand over the case she's not supposed to file and say, please help us with this, something has happened, then there's no reason why any presidential candidate will not be asked. And if there are other presidential candidates who have been asked and they have refused to answer those questions, that is not a reason for anyone to say that, oh, then their own candidate should not answer that question. So one of the things also that citizens have to understand is to understand their power in that their office of the citizens and not see themselves as slaves to anyone. So coming directly to the question, what are the things? And I love what PO just said, the last speaker that just spoke now, where he talked about the fact that, there has to be accountability. Anywhere there's no accountability, nothing is going to be done. Because what normally happens when you give an environment for people to behave badly, they will not only behave badly, they will add whatever it is on top and behave more than badly. And so that accountability is very key. But there's something that we talk about, and he talked about, he said, a leader that has the people at heart. That's the kind of leader we need. Absolutely. Empathy is number one thing. Empathy is number one. And whoever it is that has empathy for the people, we do everything they can to ensure that the people are taken care of, the people get the best, even if they don't have competence, they will go and look for people that will have competence because they have empathy for the people. They want what is best for the people. And I would say Peter Obi has repeatedly shown that he has empathy for the people. But there is something. If we're just expecting that a good leader, when he is in place, and then police will behave very well, what happens when a bad leader is in place? We must always measure it. And so that's the reason why, for me, the next president of Nigeria, what I would see is for that president to take, and it will take, and we have to be, we have to look at this very well. It will take somebody who really has empathy for the people, somebody who is thinking about the next generation and not the next election to be able to do it. They must take away the power. A lot of the powers that the Nigerian president has, it must be taken away from the Nigerian president. Situation we have today, where the Nigerian president is one of the, if not the most powerful president in the world. The things that they are able to do. or who they can sack the IG of police, they can sack this, they can sack that, they get to have a say of who they are appointing in terms of these key positions. There's so many things that need to be taken away. So what we need is for there to be strong institutions. Yes, it is people that make the institution. Institutions will not just come and be strong just like that. It is the people who are in our power that will ensure that there are these strong institutions. So we want a situation whereby even if a president is not breathing down the neck of the IG of police, but that there's a system in place that with or without the president, the IG of police must be forced to do the right thing by the people. Because if we do not ensure that, one of the things that I will tell everyone, God willing, on May 29, 20, and I'm biased here, and I'm sure everybody knows that. For me, I don't hide what this thing. I have a candidate, and that candidate happens to be Peter Obi. And so what this statement might be biased. On May 29th, by the grace of God, when Peter Obi is sworn into office, he has only 8 years. He can do more than 8 years. So if he's the one breathing down the neck of the IG of police and ensuring that we have no police brutality and everything, and then after 8 years, God forbid, we now have one monstrous person, and then the person will breathe down, just like what they're doing now, breathe down on the neck of the IG of police, and then before you know what's happening, they start the police brutality or even do worse, because it's very easy to destroy. So what we need to do is to ensure that the next president is putting in place institutions that will be so strong that an IG of police can look at the president and say, I will not do this order you are telling me to do because it's the wrong order. For example, when those soldiers were sent, or whoever it is that called that commander of the military and say, go and shoot people at the Lekki toll gate, they should have been able to say, no, whether it was Mr. President or whoever it is, because sure, Mr. President is the one that has commander-in-chief, is the one that has the final order, because he's one in charge of the military. Say, no, Mr. President, we are not going to do that because the Constitution does not allow us to go in and shoot citizens who aren't doing anything. So for me, the number one thing is to ensure that the power that is in individual offices are institutionalized in such a way that with or without, we saw what happened with Donald Trump in the US. And for the first time for me, and this is digressing a bit, I want Nigerians to understand that this democracy, there's nobody that understands democracy we thought the US, they had everything about democracy until Donald Trump came. What you have is that if you don't vote in the right people into office, you're going to suffer the consequences of it. There are no two ways about it. And so even when he came and tried to, their institutions, even though we saw a lot of things which he had not codified before, which were just convention, and he was able to do all sorts of things with them. But we could see that certain institutions, he couldn't do anything with them. They came out point and blank, and they said a lot of things to you. I remember one of the, I think it was the military, this thing that said, oh, they are unlike other places where they have allegiance to either government or allegiance to the Queen or something, they in the US is allegiance to Constitution. So we need those kind of reforms, right? Those kind of situations. Then the other thing also is for us to have reform. We need to have total and absolute reform of not just a lot of sectors in the country, but because we are talking about police right now, we need to have that total reform. Overhaul a lot of things. First of all, what are the kind of people, like I said earlier, that that are getting into police today? If somebody wants to get into police, they bribe their way. It didn't even start today. I remember when they were paying 40,000 to get into it, and maybe that's like 15, 16 years ago. And so the people that came in, how do you think they're going to behave? Corruption is going to continue. They're going to continue their brutality. They're going to continue to take money away from people. So we have, first of all, that reform has to happen. We have to ensure that there are new guidelines also to ensure police and people and community policing. There must be a way to complement it, not this one that we are on either side. You know, I think there's a speaker who said the first thing is that people are angry at police. Yes, rightly so, because we have been so dehumanized by police. I was 9 years old when I saw a fat man, and I'm seeing his picture right now. I'm 49. I'll be 49 years in December. So that's about 40 years ago or thereabout. no, I was 10. I was 10 when that happened. So that's like 30-something years ago, thereabout, when I saw this man being beaten by military. He was selling meat. His crime was that he was selling meat. They threw him in his van. So how do you expect I won't grow up and have that hatred towards anything in uniform? And it took me years to be able to get over it. And then there's another, the massacre that happened at the Lekki toll gate. And so it has put me back, and a lot of people that has happened. So there must be, so when there's this reform, some of the things that we're looking at, for there to be a relationship between the police and the citizens, because that's the only way you can fight crime. You don't do one thing alone. I would want the president to even use as an executive bill, beyond just the police brutality issue, to look for a place where we are having local government autonomy. We need a local government autonomy. For example, if you look at places like the US, that's why they have those sheriffs. This vigilante that will come, they can be like our local government police. There should be autonomy, even with as we are having the state security, state policing, we should also have local government policing, and the local government autonomy. We are not going to get it with an executive bill. Of course, it also needs the legislative arm of government they're the ones that will pass that on before there is assent. So it also comes to us here to ensure that the people that we are voting into the legislative arm of government are people with competence, character, and capacity, and are ready to do a lot of things for Nigeria. So in terms of that reform, also the institutionalization, the ensuring that power is not just in the hands of the president to just either choose or sack who becomes the IG of police, because most of them are there protecting their jobs. They're not going to, because their loyalty is not to us, it's to the person that can sack them, that can drive them away. All of those kind of powers should be taken away from the president and be put in a place whereby it's not one person who has such control over it. There is also the issue of in terms of the welfare of police, in terms of the remuneration and overall welfare, in terms of their training, in terms of where they're living. If you ever go to a police barrack, you're going to see people who also are dehumanized. And of course, they are carrying out that the inhumane treatment in the way they're living. 2015, I was in Maiduguri, and we passed a police, police, where they normally stay. And I was like, I wouldn't even allow my animal. It's like a mother who is, I'll round up quickly on this one now. If you see a woman who is abused by her husband, a wife abused on the children. So you see also the police who are seeing people who are looting so much, doing all sorts of things against them that have denied them a lot of things, and then they carry that on, the corruption in the country and everything, and even their own people, they are abusing them. They carry that abuse on other people. So also on the issue of corruption, because there is a lot of money that the policemen and women are supposed to receive that they are not receiving, because someone somewhere is sitting on that money. And for example, you find people have been sent to what do you call this thing now? To be at our highway, to either be there, and they're supposed to be paid certain allowances. They are not paid. They stay there 3 months, 4 months, 6 months. Somebody somewhere is sitting on the money. It's not paid. It's not paying them. So all of this, in terms of corruption, in terms of reform, in terms of ensuring that the institutional power, there's an institutional power rather than a presidential power on a lot of things that have to do with even the leadership of the police, whether the appointment or order. I know the police commission, with the police commission, they call it, or whatever, they have their own, but we need something beyond that, so that we are not depending on a good president being the one overlooking the better. Irrespective of whoever is there, we have institutions that can protect the system, so that they are not beholden to being to looking after that their alliance is not to the president, no, allegiance is not to the president and the ruling party, but rather to the people and Nigeria and to the Constitution. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Aisha. That was really deep, talking about the role of institution. I want to quickly go. I have a lot of questions in that regard. And I want us to look at the place of institution in curbing police brutality. And one of the highlights of what you said was that it is not about the president, but about the institution, that we should hold the institution, we should hold them accountable to give us these strong institutions. I want to bring on Gregory so that I want this conversation to move in that direction of how we can ensure that there are strong institutions that can make the police, make the elected officers respect these institutions, that will guarantee that there is proper behavior of the police to the citizens that they are supposed to protect. So I'm bringing on Gregory.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can. Okay. First things first, thank you for the opportunity to speak among these wonderful speakers. So one of the things I've gotten to understand is this. Many people refuse or fail to see that police brutality is not the first, let me say, first part of ineffectiveness or first spot of offense of the police. It actually I believe it starts with police intimidation. Now, the last few weeks, I was kind of like very pissed at the police, what do they call him, Benudeni, because he said something. Somebody reported that police officers threatened to shoot them and told them that nothing would happen. And Ben said, there is no law against that. I was like, what kind of statement is that? And that is that is the great spur of police brutality. When you have policemen threatening to shoot people without any recourse, without anything happening to them, it's mad. Because how won't people succumb to police brutality? If when a police officer threatens to shoot me, I know that he can't, because quite frankly, I tell you, as far as I'm concerned, in fact, it was until recently before people started openly informing people when they want to go for police recruitment. Before police, as far as I'm concerned, police just spring out of thin air. When people want to go for police recruitment, they don't tell anyone because they are ashamed. So as far as I'm concerned, the police, they are 80% of them are mad people. So when a mad person threatens to shoot you and there's no accountability from that level, from the level of intimidation, you are giving the person more opportunity to be a brutal policeman. So my own is this: number one, checkmate their intimidation. Let it be a crime. If a policeman, let it be law that if a policeman threatens you without any distance, let him be charged. If a policeman insults you, if a policeman demeans you verbally, let the policeman be charged. Which brings us to the second thing, of which I'm also arguing with Ben, in getting the police to court. The next thing you will hear, they have transferred the police out of the place where he committed the crime. And they will now tell you that you have to go and start pursuing the case in a far distant place. It has happened severally. There should be a law. If a police is before a court, there's no transfer until the case is over. How would somebody be trying to pursue justice? Because another challenge is in Nigeria, justice is freaking expensive. Somebody is trying to pursue justice, and the next thing, you increase the cost because you can. Once again, I ask somebody, if somebody is accused of a crime, I know for a fact, if I am accused of a crime, I can't just up and say I want to go to another state when my case is in court. So these are what the solutions I believe could be affected to curb this. Then there's another tactic they use, I don't know if people know of it, to do the brutality. Even if, like, this is what they do in my area in Warri, if they don't want to be the ones to beat you, what they do is this: it's not the police that will touch you. They will put you in jail, and they will order the criminals in the jail to be the ones to beat you and torture you. we have to find a way to cope that, maybe for a better meal or for something. So if that happens, that also happens a lot. That is a tactic they use a lot. If they don't want to be the one seemingly touching you, then when they ask, they say, it is not us that touched him, it is their image, but it was them that gave the image the others. Well, I believe if these little things are put in play, it will reduce, or it will begin to reduce the level of police brutality in the country. Thank you very much.
Hello.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, you can hear you. Go ahead. Yeah.
So whilst this conversation was going on, a police officer reached out to me in my DM and pleaded anonymity. I would like to read out most of the comments that he sent to me, and I want us to look at it now from the perspective of the police officer. And this is what he said. He said,
Hello, Judith. You sound faint. You sound far away. And also, can you mute everybody that is not speaking?
oh, okay, that's good. Let me do that. Mute everyone. Okay, can you hear me better now?
Yes, Judith, it's better.
Oh, wait me, please take it up. Let me go out and come in. I think my audio is breaking.
Judith, your audio is good and Wayne is not here, so give me 1 second, guys. I'll switch out. Okay, Wayne. 1 second. I'm just gonna reorder the call.
Hello?
Yes, Aisha, I believe we can hear you just fine. I'm just re-adding both of our calls. Let's add Judith back.
Okay, so while we're getting that sorted out, let me just go ahead with one or two things.
Yes, of course.
I think the last caller. Okay, yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Firstly, sir, Nigerian security agency is not being taught human rights. That is, to know human rights. He said in our institution, sorry, can you hear me, please?
Yes,
Yes, I can.
Good. He said in our institution, he said in our institution, he said the Nigerian security agencies are not being taught human rights in our institution, except those that attend the NDA or the police academy. But we, the rank and file, no one teaches us these things. That he said nobody teaches them about human rights. Then he continued, he said, many officers you see on the road abusing citizens. He said, many of us are the rank and file that they put on the road. Many can't even read or write, especially in the Nigerian army. He said, let me tell you one thing. I am 8 years old in the service and my salary is 57,000 naira. Bro, how do you cope? But because we are not born with silver spoon, how would we cope? He said the income is poor, said the military is better. The police salary, they would pay house rent from it, medical bills, transportation to work. So these are the problems that a police officer sent to my DM and he pleaded anonymity. I would like to go straight to Aisha, and I'd like to hear, I know you're a very compassionate and empathetic citizen of this country, and that is what fuels you're wanting every citizen to know about their rights, about how not to allow brutality or any form of subjugation. Listening to what I read from this police officer, I would like to hear your take on this, and how can this be tackled? How can this be resolved?
Okay, thank you so much, Judith. So it's almost as if the police officer was like, knew what I was the next thing that I was going to talk about. And I'm glad he even helped me with that name, rank and file, because it's one of the biggest problems that we have. And so what we have a lot of people who get into the police without even having the requisite knowledge to be able to discharge their duties very well. And like you rightly said, they are not taught about human rights and how to behave, and even what are the things. Like you see simple thing as somebody say to you, put your hands in the air. The other day I saw, my husband loved to watch all of these their crime programs, and afterwards I was like, have you ever heard a police person say to you, put your hands in the air or do certain things or put your hands in the car or widen your legs? Because I'm sure they are not trained in this thing. So we don't even have what are the procedure, because sometimes you say, okay, these are the procedure of things that need to be done. In this situation, what do you do? In this situation, what do you do? Most of them, they do not have any of these procedural rules. And so people just do what they want to do. They just need to shout, hey, 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 and intimidate people. And then of course you find a lot of people who are not even educated. And one of the things is that if you have someone who is not educated and you give that person power, it's dynamite waiting to explode. Because first of all, the person is self-conscious of the fact that they can't either speak English very well, they can't interact with you, and they have a chip on their shoulder. So anything you do is like, oh, what is it? You want to think that I don't know this job? Do you want to teach me my job? And then they go all over the place. So that's a major problem. In the military, it's different. So you find out that that's why in many countries, they care so much about who are the people that are employed as police. And we need to begin to do something about it. Do we really need the rank and file per se? Not to say that, oh, I don't want them to have a job, I'm try to take job away from them. But shouldn't we get to a place where we are upping the qualification that one needs to be able to get into police itself? Why do we need people who have not even gone through that whole training? Why are we not looking for people who at least get that, not just start from officers, even at the lower cadre, have a certain kind of qualification that qualifies you to be there? Not just, oh, okay, I have a stubborn cousin or brother who is doing anyhow, who is doing all sorts of things. Oh, let me push him to the police. Oh, he has 5 credits or he has 3 credits or something like that, because that's a major problem. Like I was saying earlier, in other countries, what they ensure is that whoever is getting into the police, you have to have a lot of things. You have to have that education. You have to have integrity. You have to have character. You have to be known within that place as somebody who is upstanding. Yeah, because you are the one who is protecting the citizens. You're the one who is directly involved with the people. You're talking to the people. You're communicating with the people all the time. You're meeting them. You're protecting them. In the military, they can afford to have people who are not that high, or because there are some countries where they will even give you especially when you're young, they will give you an option between a jail term and joining the military. Because at the end of the day, what you do as a military person, the military is supposed to protect the territorial integrity of a nation. It's not supposed to be dealing with civilians. Although in Nigeria, we have had a situation whereby that has been abused. The work that police is supposed to be doing, we are now having soldiers doing them because we have a police force that are unable to do that thing. Because most of the people we have are actually the rank and file that can't do. So most of them can, and he's quite right. Most of them can't read. Most of them are just, even those who have the certificate, they can't write, they can't do anything. It's all messed up. So we need to work on that. On the issue of income, like I said earlier, yes, the income is quite bad. Not even just that the income is bad. Most times they deprive them, they deny them payment. And I've had situations. Let me digress. Let me just share this story with you. There was a day I was traveling from my hometown, which is Agbede in Edo State, to Abuja, and we were going with the driver. And the IG of police had just done a pronouncement that police should not be asking for papers. So I was coming, I told the driver, we are not showing any police this in our place. So when they stop me, I would just say to them, the IG, some places they stop me for over an hour. In short, it took me, I got to Abuja, I wasted like over 4 hours on that journey. And we'll sit down, we'll be talking and whatever. So some of them shared the fact that they had not paid them in months. And I gave them my number. I said, okay, share with me with the details, because we can't fight a fight without knowing, without having verifiable evidence. But most of them are afraid. And you must understand that as policemen, they are not able to come out and do protests, although some of them still do, and make demands the way the rest of us will do. Normally, it's as you know, citizens are supposed to make demands on their behalf, and they always say that. But the thing is that they always behave in such an unfortunate manner that they pitch themselves against the citizens. So you find that it's a whole lot of different things. Because even most times when you're doing protests, sometimes they'll tell you, you know, we support you, but you know, they gave us order. You get all of those kind of things. So there has to be a balance. So I totally understand where he's coming from. Their salaries are not being paid. Their allowances are taken away from them. The places that they live, you know, it's so dehumanizing, the environment that they put them in. They have to buy their uniform. They have to do a lot of things for themselves. They have to even bribe their way into the police force itself. But that is one of the things that it's so unfortunate about the whole Nigerian this thing itself. But one of the things I always say to police is that when you now see citizens who are fighting for a right for the country to be better so that you too will enjoy it, then they come and now use you to match out violence against the people. So how does it work? As the president, because some police officers had been taken away by terrorists when they went to bury one of their dead officers. And Lassa women, Lassa policemen, we were protesting for them, and police were still attacking us. So it gets to a place where you just get tired about the whole thing. So I do feel his case, and I understand perfectly, but there must be a balance, and that balance is that when citizens are out there making those protests, don't be the ones that are being used, you know, to shut them down and bring that, you know, that brutality. In as much as we want to sympathize, but we also see the treatment that are being meted out on the citizen, and so that has continuously made that that friction between the citizens and the police. But I think overall, we need to go back to our recruitment system. We need to go back to our teaching system. There must be procedural guidebooks on every event. When you see somebody, what do you say first? Is it that you say, oh, good afternoon, sir, good afternoon, ma? You say, in other, like other countries, they will arrest you, but they will still be telling you, sir and ma. They are going to arrest you. And then before I round up, finally, I want to say something, you know, about the one that was talking about slapping a policeman. One of the things we must understand is that a policeman is not just a policeman. He's representing an institution, and he's representing the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So when you're slapping a policeman, you're not just slapping someone who has annoyed you, but you are actually slapping an institution. You're slapping the nation. So for me, I think no matter how angry we get, it's not something to just go out and start slapping or hitting or beating or policeman or woman. But of course, there's a place where if you're trying to save your own life, they are beating you back, and you need to do that can be a different case, but not just, you know, assaulting or slapping that police, because it's not about that person, it's about the institution that the person is representing. Because a policeman in a uniform, I'll look at the person, even as I go beat you, pause and start for your mouth. Come, but because you're wearing that uniform, I have to look at you and respect you and give you all of that. Thank you.
Pardon my laughing. Aisha, you cracks me up here. Say you will beat you. Pause and
I go beat you. You know, I be corrected, go woman. I tell his dad, so I get to in fact, I want to fight. I go there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. In fact, I just had a mental picture of a scene like that happening with sand being poured in someone's mouth. Oh my God, that was really hilarious. Thank you very much. And I see that a lot of the things that you pointed out also connects with the mental health of our police officers. and especially about the rank and file officers. And I like the fact that you said, should we not look at the possibility of reviewing the qualifications of the police officers that we take into our police force? Someone already said that the word force is also a problem, that it should become the police service. How, I'm just trying to understand or want to, I want you to speak to this aspect of mental health issue of our police officers. Should the IG of police conduct mental health check on the police officers, or should there be a general training on how they can manage their mental health? I would like you to, speak to this aspect, Aisha.
Okay. Thank you so much. And I think when it comes to mental health issue, it's one thing that, especially in this part of the world, we don't address as we should. I think the speaker who talked about her uncle, her mom finding her uncle's corpse by the side where he was killed, she mentioned something about all of us having PTSD, which is so true. We are all suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder in this country. And every one of us, we have one thing or the other that we've just put in. And especially the people who are in uniform. And we never, ever talk about it. I think, if I remember briefly, there were certain issue where the wife of the president, Aisha Buhari, had talked about when they were talking at I think at an event where it's about mental health. She had talked about having to live with her husband, who is the president today, and to live with his PTSD, and the fact that nothing was really done about it. And of course, all of us now, we are having to share from that wahala of his of whatever it is that he went through while he was in service. So it's still the same thing. And a lot of police men and women, they see a lot of things. They see a lot of atrocities. There are so many things, if only it will come to the fore. If we had shows like you have all of these crime shows that they show on TV, if we had our own Nigerian ones being documented, we will be stumped at not knowing the kind of criminality and the kind of heinous things that actually happen in our country. And these are the things that a good number of these policemen and women are exposed to, and they're only human, and they have a lot of things also that they face in the line of their duty, and nothing is really being done much per se when it comes to their mental health issues. And so, yeah, I totally agree. There should be a unit there. They should have psychologists. The police should have psychologists. But then that comes to the question: how many psychologists do we even have in Nigeria for the whole 200 plus million people that we are, and how many the psychiatrists do we have? But these are units that I think it's very proper for. The police normally employ people across board, doctors, engineers, and all of that. I think something needs to be, they need to have like a psychology unit. I don't know whether that's the right name to call it, but where at least people will go, even therapy, they need to have therapy so that from time to time, these policemen and women can decompress, can share what is burdening them, what they have seen, the horrible, because there are certain horrible things there. You will see it, you will be so stumped, and you like, what humanity, what is it all about? Certain things. So these are things, of course, that I think it should be things that should be put in place. Having said that, is also to say that there are so many things, all the time in this country, we talk about unemployment. There are so many places where people can be at, where in terms of even providing service, when government provides services, they are also able to help with the issue of the problem of unemployment. For example, let's even look at like the police now, for example. There is this thing that they call sketch artists, that do this composite, maybe if you're to describe. And the speaker that talked about where she met as two cute ladies that some people wanted to drag away in their cars, and they were able to ensure that didn't happen. And she said the cars didn't have anything. In some places, people will actually sit down and they will, how do I put it now? They'll be able to have a composite of those people, what they look like. As in, they will describe them, there will be artists drawing. Even me, like I always say to people, if you tell me to describe my children, like I don't even know whether I would be able to describe them in such a way that somebody can draw them. But because these are certain trainings that people get over time, so they're able to pick out certain this thing. And we, even us as citizens, we need certain trainings in things to know what are the things you're picking out, what are the features you're picking out in something, what are the situations things that you're picking out. So, for example, these are also places in terms of employment. When it comes to, I've always said that we have a number in Nigeria that everybody, even a child of 3, will know that number. It's 419. Can we put 419 to good use? Let that be our emergency number. I've been saying this thing for years. So that the way some people will die 911 and 999 and 11 or whatever, let's just have our own 419. Let's use that. People will man those things. People will be the ones to take up. It's still like creating jobs for a lot of people. When you're talking about investigation, there are people who are checking this thing. Is it the pathologists? Is it those that will check the bodies to bring out certain things? You will see a whole lot of career paths along that way. So beyond even just like, for example, the therapists, the psychologists and all of that, there are different places where you have people who are also can be employed. So in terms, so they know that it is not about beating somebody to submission to be able to extract a confession from that person, but that you can go ahead with the clues on ground and your findings and proper investigation and know what it is. Is it forensic investigation you're doing? What kind of investigation you're doing? Are you a detective? Are you just a plainclothes police person? Are you this? Are you that? So there's so many things that the police also can open themselves out to be better informed, better reformed, better equipped, and be able to have a kind of relationship with the community, so that when you see a policeman or a woman, you're looking at them with awe and with respect, and it becomes an honorable job rather than the dishonorable job that it is today, where people are even ashamed to tell their family members that they are going for a police recruitment interview. So back to the question that you asked me directly, is to say yes, there is need for the psychology for psychos.
Imagine a system whereby when you go to the police station, right, you have a system whereby your complaint can be logged in such a way that even if the IG wants to see it, he can be able to see it. We go to the banks, these things are no big deal. Recently, I had a challenge. Someone representing me went to the police station. This guy did nothing. They locked him up. His wife went there with the kids. They told the wife that a woman cannot bail us, a lady cannot bail us, and they had to bring a man, collect him. They did all sorts. I got in touch with the Lagos State PRO person. I got in touch with the complaints unit. They did nothing. You know how these guys responded to me? It was when I now ranted the next morning on Twitter. Why should it be like that? These are top police. And when you even hear these top police officers, the comments they make at times, they fail to understand that, they are doing themselves a favor when it is that you have the people at your side. And the fact is the way our population is exploding and the way the resources of our country is also dwindling. Nigeria is very poor, very extremely poor. At the end of the day, what's going to happen is that, and if you look at history, see, this has happened over and over again. What is going to happen is that the police is putting itself in a very dangerous position because the people are exploding. The how you control them when you are fighting them. So you see that the leadership has to have the right mindset, and it's the people. The people have already started doing a great job. If whoever told you that NSAS did not do, NSAS was a critical junction. The police now, you are now seeing them little by little. They are now being more responsive. They are now hearing word. Let me use that word. If it's before, years ago, a policeman will tell you that, you don't ever see where they say that they come up policeman because of this thing. Policemen have said that, but now, you now see police being dealt. The process has started. They have started talking to themselves. So the people also have to keep putting pressure. Let us don't fight the police. We need the police. We need the police. Don't fight the police. If the police is not there, we're all in trouble. We have to understand the challenges. Like Aisha said, most of these rank and file, they are in terrible working situation and they cannot fight their bosses. We, the citizens, are the only people that can fight the bosses. not fight, but at least put pressure on them to do the right thing. So, like I said, the first one is transparency. Like the other guy that said they will transfer police up and down. My brother, make noise. Make noise. You have online platform. Let the whole world see our mess. If our leaders are not ready to do the right thing. So if you have a simple software in place that whenever you go to the police station, you have a complaint number, you log in your complaint, all your statement, everything is online, and how the case progresses is online, and it's no big deal. Like I said, on that way, you're focusing on transparency. So everything is now becoming more transparent. So I have a situation that I want to log a complaint. It's simple. It's not rocket science. I call the police station and all those things, or I call someone, and whatever I said is recorded. The evidence is there. Accountability. The greatest problem Africa has is accountability. You see this oil mess that we're in now. Just watch. At the end of the day, it will still go down the drain. Won't do anything. Will that happen in the UK? Will that happen in America? And Americans will sit down and be looking at the president. So our greatest problem is accountability, and we need to understand the power that we have. At the end of the day, when someone goes wrong, it doesn't matter if I know that person. Wherever we are from the world, if we all make noise, that person will get out. That person will get out. And this oil thing, I just also pray that we have that wisdom. Head has to rule. Let us keep sleeping. Live and get children for house. It is, see, the foundation, what we are suffering today in Africa is because of what happened 100, 200 years ago. The behavior we're exhibiting now is the behavior that our people, our ancestors exhibited. They were too lukewarm, and at the end of the day, we're suffering it. So we should not do the same thing so that our children and our descendants 100 years from now, we continue to suffer what we are suffering. We are started waking up, but we need to put more pressure. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. So I'm going to use this opportunity to really thank all of our speakers. I know that some of our speakers are still wanting to continue the conversation. The hashtag is still flooded with mentions. But of course, we would love to continue to respect the time of those who reached out this afternoon or evening where you guys are, of course. So we just really want to thank you guys. We recognize that this conversation was necessary, right? And here at Obedient TV, these are the types of conversations we want to engage in. We want to have informed citizenry, and we want to ensure that this is the tonality of the conversation as we go into the 2023 elections, especially. As our special guest has noted, we have to recognize that we as citizens have a voice, and we therefore are allowed to ask not just the candidates, but demand certain things of our current government, right? And so for that matter, we're going to go ahead and pass it over to Ms. Aisha. We would love if you had any closing remarks for us, or just any last bits that you wanted to give us before we close.
Yes, sorry. Yeah, sorry. I'll be raising my hand. I don't know. Yeah, hello? Do you?
Yes, Viv, I can hear you.
Sorry, do you just call up on me? Because I'll be waiting quite a while, so. You mean?
Wait 1 moment, guys. I'm having a technical issue.
Hello, I went off for a while, I came back. I couldn't hear anything, so I had to leave and come back. Hope there was no question directed at me.
No, Ma, there was no question directed at you. What my host was saying was she would like for you to give a closing remark.
Oh, okay then. Thank you so much. So apologies once again. I don't know why the network has just been tripping up and down. I think the last speaker really just brought it down to a close, and I think my closing remarks are going to revolve around what he has said. So the first thing he talked about, that accountability, whatever is happening, that it's actually happening from the top, and whatever excesses that we see the rank and file do, whether it's NSAS, the SARS on the road, that we carry someone to an ATM and just empty somebody's bank account or whatever, is because they see it happening with those with their leaders in offices, and it's quite true. And so most of the time, because that's why you find out that they are unable to actually prosecute something, because there's something about moral justification of being able to do something. If yourself, that's the reason why at every level we must hold ourselves to higher standards that we hold other people, because that's what will give us the moral justification to be able to either say something or do something when other people do certain things. But in the case, you find out that these people are protected because they know their organs are also doing one thing or the other. They are also either extorting money from people, they are corrupt, they're collecting bribes and all of that. So, hey, how are you going to prosecute me who collected 200,000 from a citizen that said, when I know you too, you have your own, these are also the wrong things that you're doing. So we need to get to a place where the right kind of people are put in offices. And one of the things that we've had, and I would say this as I round up, is to say that in the police institution, the police force, of course, that name, a lot of people have said the force should be removed out of it. We have people with competent character and capacity. We have good policemen and women. We have really good ones with honor, with integrity and character. But sadly, what normally happens is that those people are sidelined. They are put at the side. They're not the ones that are allowed to get in place. It's in other countries, it also has happened, like the New York in the 1930s and all of that. There was so much corruption in the New York police department that even some of them say that it is you who was not collecting bribe that was ashamed, because the mafia was in control, even their politics and all of that. But it is the people participating that have been ensured that there is a turnaround. So what is happening in Nigeria today in terms of the things we see today, the negative things, it's not just Nigeria that have experienced it. Other nations have, that we see and look up to today, they also experienced it. But what really mattered at the end of the day was people participating, people caring and saying enough is enough. And I like the statement he made. He said a country work based on the input of its people. And I would like to end this to say, dear Nigerians, we must participate in governance. We must be part of governance. Election also, we must participate in it. And you must see what has changed, what has happened by the time citizens decided to participate in election. Before now, citizens didn't bother, they didn't participate in election. The people who were in political office, the people who were in parties and who called themselves politicians were the ones that did whatever it is that they wanted to do. And we saw what was happening. But this time around, citizens have decided to participate, and we can see the turnaround and the change and what is happening. And the citizens are now the ones who are calling the shot on how the electoral process will be like, on how the election will be like, on how campaigning will be like. That's what happens when citizens participate. They change the situation, they up the stake. So the same thing must also happen. We must never vote and go home and sleep. We must vote and hold those who are voted into office accountable. Whether it's your candidate or it's not your candidate, we must be ready to scrutinize anybody that is running for office. And when they go into office, we must hold them accountable. The fact that they were our candidates, we love them, we voted for them, does not mean that we will not hold them accountable. The moment election is done, whether whoever it is, we collectively hold that person accountable, because election is a pact we sign that says you must do the needful for us, and we must watch and ensure that they are actually doing that needful. So please, 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 dear Nigerians, governance is all about participation, participation, participation. Governance affects every aspect of our lives, and if we want a country where things work, where we'll be proud, where we'll have good quality education, where we'll have good healthcare system, where unemployment will be drastically reduced, where we'll have security, where we'll have good roads, where we will have reduced out of school children, or maybe even minimal to zero if we can, and a whole lot of good things happening to us and having development, then we must take part in governance. We must occupy our office of the citizens. We must continue to demand for good governance, accountability, and transparency, because if you do not do that, those voted into office will give us what is easier to give, and it's easier to give bad governance than it is to give good governance. So, hey, there is work even after election. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much, Aisha. We cannot thank you enough for you being here with us. I want to desperately apologize to our current speakers and to the rest of the audience. The space was originally to hold for 2 hours, and yes, of course, we have gone well past that. In the respect of the current speakers that we have, if you all would please mind to bear with me. I would like to give you 2 minutes, please, to give a brief remark so that we can close. We have definitely run over time. So, Professor Bird, please feel free. 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much. To really go to the point. And you see, when it comes to what we're talking about today, it is, I think Aisha has said a lot, and the other speakers, phenomenal deposition. I want to say that the key point is leadership. Leadership, nothing more. Because when the head is sick, it will affect the whole part of the body. And that has been going on quite a while. Namely, how do you fix it? Numbers of new brains of men and women in the uniform. That is increasing number, which is, candidates are promised now, especially Peter Obi, whom I support. And like I said, I don't support anybody. I support policies and plan and freshness and genuinity and then equity and accountability, right? And equipment. Equipment is a law. Law and awareness that Aisha and other speakers emphasized. The video, the camera, watching and the recording what police officers are doing, very paramount. Equipment equals to law. Why law? Because law governs all the equipment bought, and then the cars, the vehicles that belongs to the police. I think I support the police force. I think things could change, take away the force. Because in our countries in the world, it's just a police, period. So that's very cool. And then the next one, I've already mentioned leaders. Leaders are controlled by the law. Because when there's rule of law in a country, things work. In Nigeria, that is not the case. We can speak here a billion times. When the rule of law is absent in a country, it doesn't work. Where I live right here in the Western world, we rule of law. I see here people say slap. That makes me laugh a lot. Slap the police. Well, here, if you slap the police, when you go to court, and then you'll be fined if it's very minor, or you go to prison. Rule of law. Rule of law, right? And then centralize and decentralize the system. Very paramount.
Absolutely.
And then sorry?
No, I said absolutely.
Yeah, and the next one is the cases, police transfer. Somebody is saying police is transferred from one place to the other. I was just like laughing, but come on. In the Western world, when the police is transferred, the case is the case. If, for example, if police is in Lagos, he committed a crime and he transferred to Maiduguri, where the police will take a flight, maybe express a flight or a private jet to come to the case. Who cares? The rule of law is the rule of law. Those are just like, I don't know, is it a country or what? So anyway, so the next one, the prisons, rule of law also. Every law. There are lawyers, you have free lawyers. Lawyers should be free. Lawyers should be free when citizens don't have economic backbone. It's a must. It's the rule of law, right? And you have salaries increase. The rule of law also. And then you have housing, police officers should be privately owned, not barracks. In Western world, how do they do it? In UK, in Germany, in Spain, in Holland, in just name it. Even in the US, the same thing. Private home.
30 seconds to round up, sir.
Sorry?
Please use 30 seconds to round up, sir.
Oh yeah, I just spent 1 minute. Okay, no problem. So I have a lot of things then. High officers being fired. The same thing, rule of law. Conclusion. You see, we need a turnaround, 180-degree turnaround. And I wrote right here, look, is to create a team of Nigerians when the new president comes in next year to go to advanced country where things are working, study the police, and bring the implementation down in Nigeria. Very simple. Everything is going to be there. So that is what I can contribute right now, folks. And then please, I'm going to follow the host and the speakers. Follow me and follow one another, share. This is how we make Nigeria great. It is possible. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We duly appreciate your contributions. So again, I've unfortunately really ran over, and I really do want to respect the time and respect everyone's contributions. I want to personally thank my co-hosts. Wayemi and Judith have done a beautiful job to the space and to conducting this. They've coordinated this to their best of their ability. Aisha, we are so grateful to have you leading the charge in various movements, and to all of the speakers that have joined us this evening. We cannot thank you guys enough. Please, we would love to say get your PVCs. Everybody who is on ground, everybody who registered, it is now time to pick up your PVC. So if you don't have your PVC, go out and pick it up. Go with your friends, tell a friend to tell a friend, and in your households, ensure that everyone around you has gotten their PVCs. And most importantly, vote in the next upcoming election. We appreciate you guys. We appreciate your time. This is Obedient TV, hashtag The Shift, and we're going to close it out for the night. God bless you all. God bless Nigeria. Bye, guys.
Bye. Thank you.